They hurt you, then blamed you. But the truth is far more disturbing. Carl Jung. They hold up mirrors made of their own darkness, reflecting back distorted images where your pain becomes your crime. These are not true mirrors, they are funhouse contortions, warped glass that transforms victim into villain with the cruel precision of unconscious projection. In these moments, you become archaeology itself, the living repository for their unacknowledged guilt, the walking museum of sins that were never yours to curate. Watch how effortlessly they perform this dark magic. The perpetrator points at their own reflection and calls it your face. Their violence becomes your supposed provocation. Their cruelty metamorphoses into your imagined transgression. This is projection's most sinister face, the unconscious mind's desperate attempt to exile its own shadow by casting it upon the nearest suitable vessel. You have become the scapegoat not through divine lottery, but through a more disturbing selection process. Something in your very nature, your sensitivity perhaps, or your capacity for self-reflection, made you the perfect canvas upon which they could paint their disowned darkness. The empath becomes the villain, the wounded becomes the weapon, the one who cares most deeply becomes the one most blamed for not caring enough. This is archetypal theater played out in the most intimate chambers of relationship. Jung knew this pattern well. The shadow that cannot be faced must be projected, and those with the greatest light often cast the darkest shadows in others' eyes. You are witnessing the collective unconscious at work, ancient patterns of blame and shame dancing their eternal dance, seeking always to preserve the ego's illusion of its own innocence. Like ancient alchemists transmuting lead into gold, abusers perform a dark magic, but their alchemy works in reverse, transforming the gold of your authentic experience into the lead of manufactured guilt. This psychological sleight of hand operates in the realm where consciousness meets shadow, where the known self encounters the disowned aspects it cannot bear to acknowledge. Watch the master at work. They take their violence and call it your provocation. They harvest their cruelty and plant it in the soil of your supposed transgression. The perpetrator becomes the wounded hero of their own narrative. You, the dark antagonist whose very existence justifies their actions. This is enantiodromia, Jung's principle of psychological reversal, played out with devastating precision. The dark alchemist knows instinctively which elements to combine. They take your compassion and mix it with their rage, your sensitivity and blend it with their numbness, your capacity for growth and transmute it into evidence of your fundamental flaws. The formula is ancient and reliable. Take the victim's greatest strengths and transform them into proof of their complicity. This inversion operates not through conscious malice alone, but through the deeper currents of the collective unconscious, where archetypal patterns of blame and redemption play out their eternal drama. The shadow seeks always to preserve the ego's pristine self-image, and what better way than to make another carry the burden of one's own darkness? Behind every accusation lies a fracturing persona, the carefully constructed mask that cannot bear the weight of its own contradictions. When they blame you for their actions, witness the desperate scrambling of an ego that dare not face its shadow. Their finger points outward while their soul recoils inward, terrified of the abyss that gazes back from the mirror of self-reflection. The persona Jung described as the mask we wear in the world begins to crack under the pressure of maintaining its false innocence. Each projection becomes a hairline fracture in their constructed identity. The good parent, the loving partner, the respected leader, these carefully curated images cannot coexist with the reality of their actions, so reality must be rewritten. You become the author of their suffering, the architect of their violence, the puppeteer pulling strings they claim to have no control over. This is the moment when their false self reveals its fundamental instability. The accusation is not really about you. It is the death rattle of a persona that can no longer sustain its own fiction. They rage not at your actions, but at your existence, for you represent the living proof of their shadow's reality. Your mere presence threatens the elaborate construction of their innocent self-image. Watch how frantically they work to shore up the crumbling walls of their false identity. Every blame cast upon you is mortar in the failing foundation of who they pretend to be. The more their persona fractures, the more desperately they need you to be the villain in their story. Society itself becomes complicit in this dark theater, for we collectively resist acknowledging the shadow that lives within our institutions, our families, our sacred spaces. The disturbing truth emerges. Entire systems are designed to protect the comfortable fiction that evil announces itself clearly, rather than wearing the mask of respectability. Your experience threatens this collective delusion, making you dangerous to the established order. The collective shadow Jung warned us about operates not only within individuals, but within the very structures we inhabit. The good family cannot contain abuse. The holy institution cannot harbor corruption. The trusted leader cannot betray those who follow. These impossibilities must remain impossible, even when reality screams otherwise. So reality is rewritten, and you become the rewriter's unwilling accomplice. Watch how seamlessly the collective conspiracy unfolds. Friends who witness the truth develop selective amnesia. Institutions that should protect instead protect their own reputation. The very systems designed to safeguard the vulnerable instead safeguard the image of those in power. Your testimony becomes a threat not just to one individual's persona, but to the collective persona of entire communities. This is perhaps the most disturbing revelation of all, that your suffering serves a function in maintaining the psychological equilibrium of those around you. By making you the problem, they preserve the fantasy that their world is fundamentally safe, fundamentally just, fundamentally comprehensible. Your voice, speaking truth about hidden shadows, must be silenced to maintain their collective peace of mind. In this maze of manufactured confusion, your own perceptions become suspect, your memories questioned, your reality rewritten by those who would make you doubt the ground beneath your feet. This is the gaslighting labyrinth, a psychological architecture designed not to house truth, but to entomb it. Here, in these corridors of deliberate distortion, you wander lost, questioning even your most fundamental experiences. The labyrinth builder is a master craftsman of doubt. They take your clearest memories and fog them with alternative narratives. They transform your most vivid experiences into uncertain impressions, your strongest convictions into wavering questions. The walls of this maze are built not of stone, but of systematic contradiction, each turn designed to lead you further from the center of your own knowing. This is psychological warfare waged in the realm of the psyche itself, where the lines between truth and lie blur until you find yourself arguing against your own experience. The gaslighter does not simply lie. They create an alternate reality so compelling, so internally consistent, that you begin to doubt the evidence of your own senses. The most insidious aspect of this labyrinth is that it has no exit in the conventional sense, only deeper chambers of manufactured doubt. Each attempt to escape leads to another corridor of confusion, another dead end of false alternatives. The maze expands with every step, growing more complex as you search for a way out, until you forget that there was ever a world beyond these walls. You carry an ancient burden, one recognized across cultures and millennia, the scapegoat who bears the community's sins into the wilderness. This is no random selection, no arbitrary casting of lots. The archetypal forces that govern human psychology have chosen you with disturbing precision, recognizing in you the exact constellation of qualities that make the perfect vessel for carrying what others cannot face. Jung understood this pattern intimately. The scapegoat archetype emerges not from weakness, but from a terrible kind of strength. Your sensitivity made you receptive to their projections. Your empathy made you willing to carry burdens that were never yours. Your capacity for self-reflection made you the ideal candidate to question yourself rather than them. Your very goodness became the hook upon which they hung their disowned darkness. This is the disturbing truth the psyche rarely reveals, that those who become scapegoats are often those most capable of transformation, most open to growth, most willing to look within. The abuser recognizes these qualities unconsciously and is drawn to them like metal to a magnet. They need someone who will actually absorb their projections, someone whose psyche is porous enough to take in what they cannot contain. You were chosen not for your flaws, but for your gifts, not for your darkness, but for your light. The scapegoat carries the shadow precisely because they are strong enough to bear it, conscious enough to eventually transform it. Most disturbing of all is how readily the psyche accepts the burden of blame, how the ego would rather believe in its own culpability than face the randomness of evil, the senselessness of cruelty. This is the seduction of self-blame, perhaps the most insidious trap in the entire labyrinth of psychological manipulation. The mind, desperate for meaning, will create causation where none exists, will find patterns in chaos, will accept responsibility for forces beyond its control. Self-blame offers the terrifying comfort of control. If you caused it, the logic whispers, perhaps you can prevent it. If your actions triggered their violence, then different actions might ensure safety. This seductive reasoning leads you deeper into the shadowlands of your own psyche, where your unconscious becomes complicit in the very narrative that destroys you. Watch how effortlessly you take on the role of director in a play you never auditioned for. You examine your every word, your every gesture, searching for the moment you invited their cruelty. You become archaeologist of your own supposed transgressions, excavating evidence of guilt from the innocent soil of ordinary human interaction. The victim transforms into prosecutor, judge, and jury of their own imagined crimes. This self-persecution serves the abuser's agenda more perfectly than their external manipulations ever could. They no longer need to convince you of your guilt. You have become your own tormentor, your own accuser, your own prison guard. The seduction is complete when you begin to gaslight yourself, questioning your own experiences, minimizing your own pain, excusing their behavior while condemning your own. There is a wound within you that has learned to whisper instead of scream, a laceration so deep it has become your secret geography, mapping territories of pain you dare not name aloud. This is not the honest wound of the warrior, struck down in noble battle, but something far more insidious, the wound that makes you question your own bleeding, that transforms your very suffering into evidence of your complicity. In the twilight realm where victim and perpetrator blur into shadow play, you find yourself holding both the knife and the cut, accused by invisible tribunals of orchestrating your own undoing. The shadow, that dark twin, Jung knew dwells in every psyche, begins its ancient dance not as enemy but as mirror, reflecting back the projected guilt of those who cannot bear to see their own capacity for cruelty. Here, in this liminal space between innocence and blame, the ego trembles. You have been made an accomplice to your own destruction, convinced that your very existence somehow invited the blade. The wound speaks in silence because language itself has been weaponized against you. Every word of protest twisted into proof of your culpability. Every cry for justice reframed as manipulation. This is where individuation begins, in the recognition that you have been living someone else's story about who you are. The fog of projected guilt is not your fog. It is the smokescreen of those who cannot face their own shadow. To see through it requires the courage of psychological archaeology, the willingness to excavate the true from the imposed, to separate your authentic pain from the narrative of shame that has been grafted onto it like a parasitic vine.